who was on stage earlier, the Chief Experience Officer, Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Geometry Global. He's going to be talking about behavior first, tech second.
All right, so is this thing working this time? All right, awesome. So I'm up here because I've got a little bit of a worry when it comes to scenarios like this, because what we see happen a lot is that everyone comes over into a conference like this one, and then you look at all of this cool stuff that's going on, and you go, man, this is great. Let's go see how we can do it at work. You go back to work the next day, you talk to 2 people about it, and then you go back to doing your normal job and never talk about it again. And that's a bit of an issue when it comes to the application of technology to advertising and to marketing, is that it's not our core function. It's not the thing we do on a regular basis. So what I wanted to spend a little bit of time doing is kind of bringing it back into what it is that we are supposed to do, which is change behavior. So the first thing that happens when you go and you try and do this is you walk into a meeting room and you see, you want to talk about innovation and technology and its application within advertising, and what you end up is playing buzzword bingo. Basically, have you guys ever played buzzword bingo? It's when each one of you gets one of these and you take it into a room with you and you see how many buzzwords the person that's speaking on stage or leading the meeting is saying, and then you start stamping them, and if you get 5 in a row, you can yell bingo in the middle of the room and just interrupt them completely. There was one time we walked in to talk about the application of technology to advertising in particular, and then this happened while we were playing it. And man, did that person come in, and just in one statement, just everyone hit bingo instantly. Let's go through it. We need to leverage artificial intelligence to streamline the service delivery of our value proposition to our customer base. I didn't understand a word they were saying, but they used every marketing term that they were supposed to use to impress their boss at that point in time. And then, instead of actually working on what we were supposed to work on, we spent around 20 minutes debating why we used the word our twice. Because obviously we can't say the customer base, they're our customer base, we own them. And it becomes this weird conversation about application of technology, because we're so anxious about talking about something that is so distant from what we do on a regular basis, that instead of talking about what we should talk about, which is the behavior of our customer, understanding our consumer, understanding the buying behavior and the shopping behavior, we end up trying to talk about technology, and because we don't know it well enough, we end up saying stuff like this, and everyone leaves the room going, yeah, that was a good meeting. Had no idea what happened in there, right? So I want to start undoing that a little, so that when we leave here, we can actually start thinking about applying what it is that we saw, whether it's a startup that we found that we think can fit into what we do, or whether it's something we saw on stage, or whether it's someone that we met here that would be useful. I want to see if we can start applying that in our marketing and advertising day-to-day lives, because I don't want all of the decisions that happen when it comes to the application of technology to advertising to follow a grid that procurement is going to look at and go, yes, this is quite appropriate. It has a high impact on our business. It's not very resource intensive. Let's buy that one. It's cheaper. No, that's not the objective of applying technology. What we need to do is we need to understand the journey. We need to understand how people take decisions. We need to understand how we can affect their decisions. We need to understand how our advertising is going to make sense. And then we need to start using tech. Now, before I get into the restaurant example, I want to use one of the examples that was just brought up about using video. And let's say we wanted to use video. Let's say video turned out to be the best way to show content and put an ad in the world, and we put it in the wrong part of the journey, right? Let's say you're about to show your friends at a party this awesome, funny YouTube video of some cat doing something stupid, and you pop it up, and you show your friends, and then you've got to wait 10 seconds for the ad to pass by. It's a very good piece of content. It's a very good medium of communication. It's great to put a video that explains everything, but was that really the right time to try and sell somebody your new car or whatever it is when they were trying to show a video to someone at a party? Is it really appropriate to put it during that time? That's the main issue we've got. We might have some great stuff going on, but we're probably using it in the wrong way. And I want to simplify all of that into a journey mapping process, because I don't want this to happen. I don't want you to think, all right, let's consider the journey mapping process for a restaurant. If we don't go through it and we go, all right, I want to apply machine learning to my business. I want AI on my business. I have a restaurant. Let's apply it to my restaurant. And you go to Google and you're applying AI to a restaurant. And you end up with a bunch of links. Some of them will be useful. Some of them will be useless. Some of them will be something that might or might not work in 5 years. Half of those, by the way, you can see they're purple because I clicked on these links before I took the screenshot. And when I went through them, although they were articles in a magazine or a publication, they were written by the person that owns the company that was selling the product in the article. Right? This is what's happening. You will be sold to if you do it in that manner. Instead, let's figure out how we're going to use it first. Right? And then we can start getting into this, applying it into the matrix. So let's use the alternative. Let's use a better way of doing it. And the best way of doing it is by putting a picture of a bear on screen so that we can give this some context. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the difference between the application of a program or a piece of content in the right or the wrong way. Okay? So if we were all standing up instead of sitting down, don't stand up, it's fine, I'm not going to make you work. If we were all standing up and I pointed over there and I said, oh my God, look at that bear, where would we expect the majority of the room to move towards? Right or left? My right, because I'm the important one today. So would they go that way or that way? The majority of people you would assume the majority of people would shift in this direction. So that is a piece of content. Look at that bear. That's a piece of content that I've placed. And then the reaction, the behavioral change, is the reaction to look at that bear. Now let's put that piece of content in context. If I said the same statement and we were at the zoo, everyone would walk in this direction to see the bear. Right? So what happened just now is, although I used the same piece of content, but I explained it in two different contexts, one is anywhere else and one is at the zoo, the behavior that resulted from it was opposing. Which means that you might use a piece of technology, a piece of content, a piece of whatever it is, but if you put it in the wrong context, it might have a different or even the exact opposite effect that you were looking for, just by putting it in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or it could have been at the right place at the right time, but the person was in the wrong mindset to receive it. And we need to undo that. We need to undo it very quickly. So we're going to try the same thing that we were doing before, which is the application of AI or technology in general, right, to the restaurant business. But this time, instead of just going to Google and Googling how to apply this on that, what we're going to do instead is we're going to look at the journey of someone going on a date night, which hopefully will at some point involve the pouring of this non-alcoholic sparkling grape juice for everyone at the party. And what's happening there is we've already started in the wrong mindset. We've already started with what the restaurant does rather than what the people going on date night want to do. They didn't go there for the drinks and the food. They went there for each other. And what you needed to do is get out of their way and create the right environment for them to have the best evening possible. It's not about what you're selling anymore. Even if what you're selling was the best sparkling juice in the world. It doesn't matter. They matter. You don't, your product doesn't, and the only way you're going to matter and your product is going to matter is if it can fit into the context of what they're trying to do. Otherwise, you're completely irrelevant. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to map this out. You start with a trigger, it's date night, and then you start evolving and you start figuring out what they're going to do to be able to get to date night. They're going to need to choose a place, they're going to need to call to make a reservation, they're going to need to either get a confirmation if it's one type of restaurant or just go there if it's another. And then you go into the table and settling in, and then sitting down, ordering and eating, and then finally eating and wrapping up. And you can notice that I've color-coded these because in some scenarios, like green, they want to be spoken to. In some scenarios, like yellow, they want to be listened to with a good reaction. And there are some scenarios in red where they don't want to talk to you at all. And during those scenarios, you can now start figuring out how you're going to use your content, deliver it through technology, or how you're going to study the process so that you can understand how to make it better. Because this one's probably even wrong, but you can use the data from your tracking, from your artificial intelligence systems to be able to figure out how to optimize it. And now you can start including the stuff that you would want to include, like your automated CRM system and your marketing automation system for the choosing and calling part, your reservation automation, your order management, your point of sale automation systems. Now, this is the time where you need to start going to Google and finding out where you can get the newest stuff and the latest technology for it. Look how far we had to go before we start talking and looking into which technology we need to apply. This is how far we have to go. Because honestly, if I'm walking into date night and I've done my reservation and I got my confirmation and I'm walking up to the door of the restaurant, the only thing I want the host or hostess to tell me is that the table that I asked for that's next to the window that I insisted on is ready for me. I don't want the menu, I don't want the specials, I don't want to know what the chef's cooking up, and I don't want to know what drinks are special in that place. All I want to know is whether what I asked for is appropriate. Which means I want the content of the message to fit the context of my approach. And that's where they can start using the right technology. But also, it's a matter of mindset. You see the part where it's the menu and you've got the order management and so on? If you misunderstand the mindset, it would be very easy to say, you know what? It's a restaurant, we want to make sure that the specials are appearing, and we want to make sure that everything is perfect. Why don't we make the menus out of iPads? Yeah, absolutely. That's what two people on a date want to do. Shine a light on their faces and make the whole place light up with iPads. The mindset is just as important as the location, and it's just as important as the overall context. And that's what we need to study first. That's why we need to understand the human beings that are coming in, the people that are coming in to work with our products, to consume our products, to want to interact with them at some point in time. And that's why the process, and I don't know how many people were here when we were talking on the panel, that's why we should call the process a behavioral journey and not a funnel. It's not a transition from one section to another. It's not a linear process either. That thing that looks like a line from left to right is actually a bunch of loops that happen 100 times. I call, I don't find a spot where I wanted to, they don't have the size of table that I want, they don't do candles for birthdays, so I decide to call another place, and then it loops up. Or I don't get a confirmation, and I find out that my table's been canceled, so I need to do this again. This whole journey is really important to be able to map out properly. And what it's going to do is save you a lot of money, because if you find out that you need to spend $10,000 in the right place to get the same ROI as $100,000 in the wrong place, then you've saved a lot more money than what procurement is going to do when they give you that 15% discount because they negotiated them down. That's not what you want. You want an informed decision that saves you money, not a negotiation that beats down your partner. If you're doing that, let's call them a supplier, not a partner. You don't want a negotiation that brings your price down. You want efficiency that brings down your costs. And that way, another good thing happens, which is all of us in here that aren't coders and scientists and that have worked in marketing our whole lives, we can keep focusing on that. Because once you go through the journey and you start knowing what you want to use, the focus goes away from understanding the technology, and it starts going towards understanding the benefit of the technology and depending on your partner and supplier to provide you with the right thing that you need to be able to do what you were supposed to do. And that's the basic approach that we need to adopt. And that way, you start seeing the benefit of doing the left side versus the right, when in reality, it's a sequential process. Do your journey, and then prioritize. And once you've prioritized, then figure out what has the maximum benefit for you. The bad news about this is that all of the people in here that work in IT and tech and all of the people that work in marketing are actually going to have to talk to each other, which I know everyone's not very comfortable with, but it had to happen at some point. We might as well take care of it now. On the other hand, there is a piece of good news behind it. And after you talk to each other and after you get comfortable doing that, the good piece of news is that it works. When we applied this process, when we applied the understanding process on what we were doing, we were able to get when I was talking about this cookie thing during the panel, where we were able to apply the machine learning process to be able to, first we did the correlation, and then we applied the machine learning process to be able to figure out what the best promotion would be. We ended up with 79% of people changing what they were going to buy because we spoke to them at the right time. We have another case where it won an effectiveness lion at Cannes for a very good case where we figured out exactly where we need to speak to people, and we put a piece of tech right there. And then we have a bunch of other cases where we consistently got results that were very, very similar to these. These aren't actually the two best cases that we've got. But I didn't want to spend the time selling the product and selling the cases, because that's not the objective of this thing. What I want you guys to take out of this is that if you start with a journey planning process, regardless of whether you do it alone, it's already a good step. If you need help with it, there are a bunch of professionals you can call. I can connect you to some people. Our company does it as well. There are 100 ways of doing it. But the essential part is you can get the results out of this. You can easily go from having to learn 100 technologies to be able to take a decision to focusing on what you know, which is understanding how to change behavior and then fitting in the right tech into it when it's appropriate. That's it. Anyone got any questions on that? No questions? All right, I guess we're good then. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. I think one of the recurring themes throughout today is that the technology does exist. It's all about understanding the consumers and the behaviors in order to know how to implement it.